Okay, we'll call this council work session to order. Wednesday, October 7th, time is 1 p.m. I'll open it up for visitor comments. If you have a comment, you can wave.
Sent out a message to everyone in the chat if they want to make visitor comments to message me. I have not heard back from anyone who wants to do so.
I think one little chat there. I'm not sure what that is.
That's the message from me.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Oh, Mayor, it looks like we have Judy Thompson who would like to speak.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can. Hi, Judy.
Hey, hi everyone. I just hope, I dropped off some information on Main Street and just some personal thoughts and feelings. I hope that you had a chance to look them over, and I hope it wasn't too much to read, but anyway, it's all good stuff, and I'm looking forward to having more good stuff happen. And just a FYI, I may have to leave right away because I'm expecting a phone call from my husband's doctor. So otherwise, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
We do have Al Peterson that would like to speak.
Okay.
Let's see.
Oh, here we are.
There you are. Hi, Al.
I'm just following up on Judy's comments. I believe she sent you something, and you also have in your packet, and you should have received the full report. I don't know if it's in your packet or not, but the report from Sherry Stewart, which you had a presentation a couple of weeks ago. I had a conversation with John Walsh yesterday regarding the topic that's in your packet. We were presented with the same presentation that you were presented from Sherry Stewart prior to you getting it. All of the board on the Shedco board is on board with the report that Sherry Stewart presented. So I just wanted to give you that update and let you know that was the case, and ready to move forward. So that's it.
All right. Thank you, Al.
We do have two other people. Hang on one second. Richard, you may need to unmute yourself.
There I go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. I've been in contact with Doug and also with John on multiple occasions regarding the failure to enforce the codes down at the on the state limits down at the city docks, and I haven't. I've been sort of unsuccessful with John and with the current code enforcement officer. There have been people living down there for weeks on end, and I don't see anything happening.
Well, I know that we do enforce that. I don't know exactly if you've had talks with John and Doug. Maybe they want to join in.
Well, Rick, I haven't been copying you on any of the emails. So, yeah, you're not up to speed on it, but I have been copying Doug, and I've been copying John on multiple emails. There was some contact with these people a few weeks ago, but they're consistently abusing the code, and they're for example, there's one boat down here that's been down here for almost a month. And I know.
Mayor, I can shed some light on some of the calls that Rich has given me, and they've been very pertinent. I've followed up and gone down to basically down to the moorage to see for myself what boats he was talking about. And indeed, everything he says is very truthful and to the point. I just find that kind of in the city being in somewhat of a crisis, and the police department having a load full of issues that they're dealing with, that getting a code enforcement person there to respond and then respond back to Rich. And I think Rich, as I talked to Rich lately about the frustration of when someone reports something that if there's no follow-up. And I think Rich is really concerned about follow-up from what code enforcement has actually done or whatever, because this guy, Rich Mason, is the eyes of that waterfront. As you can see, he has a good view to the marina, and he's the first to report any wrongdoing that's going on. And so I see him as a very valuable citizen, especially in terms of our eyes of what's going on. So at least I think he deserves a response of what's happening, because he continues to call and continues to call. And I think that I think code enforcement needs to get back to him regarding what the issues of each violation, and being down there for a month. And then there was a boat prior to that was down there for 2.5 months. So it was, things are kind of, I'd like to nip things in the bud if we can. And if code enforcement can't get there, then somebody, I think, on staff needs to take up the slack. I don't know who that would be, but I'm about ready to acknowledge Rich Mason as our new code enforcement person for the marina. I mean, he'd be great at doing something that way. He certainly is the eyes of what's going on that waterfront. So that's just my perception. I want to thank Rich for just contacting me, and I've had a talk with John about it on a couple of occasions, very briefly. But other than that, that's my report.
Hey,
Mayor, if I could, it is a problem. There has been ongoing use of the voters wearing out their welcome, either just staying there limited time or just coming back and forth too often, but they are staying too long. And we've tried to work with code enforcement to get out there and be more active. I've even gone down on the docks and talked to some of the boaters, and they'll give you a story and tell you something you want to hear, enough to make you go away. But we just need to work on it. It's been a challenge.
Yeah, and I understand. The reason it's a concern to me, and I believe a while back, or quite a while back, I mentioned this to Rick. I saw what happened down at River Place. The liveaboard / homeless boaters totally destroyed that area down there, and the clubs stopped coming, and the shops closed up. And we're trying to build our riverfront and our waterfront up. And with winter coming on, these people are going to be looking for a place to stay. And that's the last thing that we want. And I know it's, unfortunately, I'm going to be a pain in your guys' side until I start seeing things happen.
Rich, just to be clear, pardon me, Mayor, but just to be clear, is River Place in Portland?
Correct, yeah. It's the river.
Okay, yeah, just for clarification. Okay, thank you.
okay.
So that's my 5 cents.
Well, appreciate it, Richard.
I had a question for John, I guess, because the way our meetings are now structured, we don't get, in-person ability to ask questions of the police every single meeting. And maybe until this is like at least managed, maybe we should have an update on this process every meeting, because this has been going on for a couple of years now. Since the first time this was reported by Antonia Doggett from the store, that was 2-3 years ago when she reported that. So I just want to make sure that we stay on top of it and not let it drift into the back of our mind with busy times. But maybe to put it on the radar for police to just give us an update of that they're following up on it, because if a person's not a voter, I don't see it. And I thankful for Mr. Mason to report it here to us, but it's like, if I don't see it, I can't act on what I don't see. So I just think we need to monitor it a little more closely, that it's, not Mr. Mason's job necessarily. We appreciate him keeping a watchful eye, but we need to keep our finger on that marina, because we want people to feel safe to visit here.
Yeah. And I give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and then I'll see boats down there, and I'll say, okay, well, I'll just watch and see what happens, or if they're going to stay, or how long they're going to stay. And usually after a week or more, then I know that that they need to move on, and you can tell that they're living on these boats. And it's like I said, I hate to see what happened down at River Place in Portland.
Yeah, I agree. There are slips available at Scottish Bay, up Rocky Point. St. Helens has occasional slips that open up. And if they really want to live on a boat, they should be renting a space and not taking advantage of our public docks.
Yeah, well, these people don't want to have to pay rent.
Yeah.
They want free moorage.
Yeah, and that's what's going on here, it seems like. So we will continue to monitor it, Richard, and I know you will. Feel free to CC me in those as well. Okay.
And I have mentioned it to Brian, and I know Brian's a busy man, but yeah, like I said, I will keep sending emails. In the future, I'll remember to copy you, Rick, on the emails if I see anything. So
sounds good.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thank you, Richard.
Can we get any help from the State Marine Board or that part of or even the county police or the county Marine Patrol, or is it just up to us?
So for a time there, I was participating in the Transient Voter Task Force just to figure out some solutions on what to do about this, what seems to be just an ongoing issue. And, Portland, 5 years ago didn't have hardly any tools in their toolbox to work with to get these boats off their docks, places like River Place. And, even today, it's a problem when you look out across from Ross Island right there. It's just completely full of, 30, 40 boats out there probably today. And, working with DSL, working with the Marine Board, there are some tools that didn't exist that are existing now. There's funds that didn't exist that exist now through the Marine Board to get some of the derelict vessels out of the circulation. So you're not one homeless boater getting their boat confiscated. They can actually pay to have that boat removed and essentially landfilled just to get it out of the system. So there are some tools. It's getting a little bit better. It's still more and more of an issue, I think, all the time. So.
Well, John, if I think one of the problems when somebody reports a misdoing, would you go straight to the code enforcement number? We got to be really clear on that. If somebody's down there and they've been there for a week or so, and Rich is maybe on vacation or somebody else does it, if someone else wants to report something, is it to code enforcement? Is that the number to go to?
Yeah, code enforcement's the first place, the first stop. So, and then for the code enforcement officer, it gets to be about the boat and then the boater. So there's kind of two aspects to that.
And then one of the disappointments I have was that when and I think all the council recalls this, that when we talked about Sand Island opening up and the ferry system continuing, it seems to me like we had a kind of verbal agreement that Brad would swing by the city docks to see if there's any vagrancies or any issues on the city docks, as well as the docks over on Sand Island. Now, I don't know if there's been any follow-up on that or not. I haven't talked to Brad about it, but I think it comes time that we should talk to him about, hey, you're the eyes on Sand Island, on the docks at Sand Island, and it seems to me like we all agreed that it would be a good thing that you could also swing by the city docks, and he agreed to it. I remember that. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, I kind of thought things would be in order that way. I'm very impressed with what's going on over on, pardon me, on Sand Island. But the city docks seem to be kind of left adrift, pardon the pun, but it seems that way.
Well, I know that as far as Sand Island, which I also have a pretty good view of, there was a sailboat, a large sailboat, tied up to the outside there for, God, I know it was at least 2 weeks. It's a sailboat that had a very tall mast and had multicolored spreader lights. Doug, you could probably see it from your house.
Yeah, it was actually pretty. It was pretty at night.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, sometimes larger boats like that need a place to hole up until they can get a repair. It might have been something with their engine and they couldn't get to where they were going. I don't know what the issue is, but I do know that there are exceptions and people do need moorage on an emergency basis. But I have no idea what happened there.
Yeah, as far as people staying at Sand Island, it's really not an issue. I think staying over there for any length of time is not as convenient as staying at the city docks.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you, Rich.
Okay.
So I think Councilor President Morton is right. I think we did discuss that with Brad. And I do recall there being a $2 fee that we were talking about in order for him to monitor the boats, and we didn't want to do that. So I think that's why it was not given to Brad, so to speak, because we can charge up to $2 a night per boat if we choose to. The Marine Board will allow us to do up to $2. So we don't want to do that.
Well, then if they do on the city docks, they just do it on their Visa. I mean, when they put their card in and pay.
But it's still an option. Yeah, it's still an option.
Yeah.
Then we can write down the whole numbers, who's paid, who hasn't paid. So, all right, Rich, we'll be on this and we'll see what we can do about it and get that boat out of there.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
I'll go ahead and leave the meeting then if you don't have anything else for me.
Nope, thank you. Okay, I know we have one more visitor comment. Yeah.
Is that me?
Yep, go ahead, Brady.
I just wanted to make a comment about Rich, who it seems to me the logical thing would be the last comment is just charge a fee, and then it makes it very easy to track who's paid and who hasn't, and not sell them a ticket. But my main comment was actually about Shedco and Al's enthusiasm to, quote, move forward. Let's be clear that the report from Sherry Stewart says very clearly that there is no moving forward for Al and Amanda. it says very clearly that they need to leave the board, and has asked for the city to invest substantial money, time, and resources in Shedco to make it a real, not corrupt Main Street program. But again, that can't happen without a new board. And so I have publicly posted, which of course no one has bothered to respond to, exactly when is that resignation date happening. And so if Shedco wants to be a viable, real organization and improve the crappy reputation that's clearly evident in the report from Sherry at the Main Street program, then in fact, those two people need to leave, need to resign, and then you can talk about what can be done to rehabilitate that organization, if anything.
Okay, thank you, Brady. All right, Matt, do you see anybody else? Okay, so we're gonna update from South County Collaborative Group, Rachel.
I was actually going to kick this off, Mayor, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is the South Columbia County Collaborative, which is, if you recall back to February, we had a meeting of, or you had a meeting of all electeds at the Meriwether Place there, then represented Columbia City and Scappoose and the port, and, commissioners along with the city staff, or the city of St. Helens, met and talked about a variety of things and kind of agreed to go forward and talking about things of common interest and of the like. So I'm going to update you on the progress, on the deliverables, get some feedback and discussion on the next steps. And, so I'm going to turn it over to Rachel, let her take the lead on this here.
Great. Thank you, John. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. And Matt, if you would be so kind as to start the presentation. We are down a couple of presenters, so I will drone on a bit more than I would like. I think, yes, John did just go through the next slide. Yep, this is our purpose for being here today, and we are visiting all of the local jurisdictions. If you'd like to go to the next slide. So we have had several participants and contributors from key staff in South County, including myself, Matt, and John, as well as former manager Sykes and now interim manager Alex Rains in Scappoose, Mike McLaughlin from Columbia City. We've had Mike Russell and Karen Schmick from Columbia County. We have Doug Hayes and new hire Matt Miller from the port, as well as Paul Vogel and Wella from CCET. We've had really great support in this too from Mary MacArthur and Ariane Colombo of Colpac and Jennifer Purcell of our Regional Solutions team. So why did we come together? If you recall, this beautiful bunch of elected officials back in February, we recognize that we have a lot of commonalities in our region, and we are growing very quickly. It will serve us well to work together. There's really a great value in increasing communication and collaboration. So if you recall, and Matt, you can go to the next slide, this was the SWAT that you all participated in. So we, as leaders, took this from you and really took it as direction. We talked through our strengths, just knowing the great resources that we have that you all identified. Also looked to, ways to address our weaknesses, ways to, if possible, address the threats that our region faces. And moving forward from that, we drafted action plans based on the opportunities. So you'll be hearing more on each of these. Yes, thank you. We really looked to two projects that would serve the entire South County region, looking for things that were already in progress or that would have substantial impact in moving us forward. These are some really foundational bits that you'll hear about that we really need to be in place in order to move forward. Our group meets monthly, and we have been working strategic action plans, coordinating our efforts, and really just improving our collaboration and relationships. We are here now, and thank you for having us back and making space on this agenda. We have been out on the road show. We really had a hope to bring everyone back together in person, but as we know, we're doing a lot of workarounds right now. So thanks again for your time. Yep, and go ahead, Matt. Mike Russell sends his apologies. He is in his own Board of Commissioners meeting right now and is not able to attend, but wanted to, and I will just give you a little brief update. If you'd like more information, certainly happy to get you connected. But there are a number of common infrastructure priorities that have already been identified and that work is in progress on. Doug Hayes will give you a little bit more on the rail corridor study and where that is at, but rail, of course, is a big part of our region, a big part of our attractiveness to industry and recruiting more industry. We have a very long-term project, Scappoose alternate route, and this is in our transportation system plan. The thinking being that this is a 20+ year project, and it will serve us to have this on our agenda now and to be getting into these plans and able to position ourselves for state attention, state and federal funding. In the meantime, we've identified a priority intersection of Highway 30 and West Lane Road, as a lot of Scappoose industrial land will be coming online very quickly. And with the improvements at the airport, this has come up the priority list, also in the transportation system plan. And this, we hope, will be a shorter term workaround while that Scappoose alternate route comes online and work gets underway there. We've also been part of a regional and even a larger regional conversation around broadband. With telemedicine, telework, teleschool, with everything that's been happening in this environment, this has come up the priority list, and that was heard really loud and clear back in February and since. So I know Matt and John have been engaged with Mary MacArthur and Colpack, working with a group of Columbia County, Clatsop, and Tillamook, as well as Western Washington County, on a larger action team focusing on broadband. So we come to you to check in, make sure that you understand the priorities. And these, of course, are regional priorities. In our city, we have our own transportation priorities that we are working to address. So in no way minimizes those, but just wanted to make sure that you're all aware of these regional priorities. If there are any questions, I'll do my best on that. All right. Well, hearing none, I'm not sure if Wella was able to make it today. And if not, I will throw to Paul to talk a little bit about tourism in South County.
Thank you, Rachel. No, actually, Wella is at a tourism conference, leadership conference down in Ashland. So I'm gonna try to fill in for her as best I can. Excuse me. The purpose of this and a lot of the input in the SWAT session was about, county-wide tourism promotion, destination development planning, actual development, implementation, and above all, coordination. And through in our initiative through the roundtable is really to keep the focus on the plan priorities. I'll try and speak a little more clearly. Integrate local and external stakeholders, invest in infrastructure and marketing. And the key actions that we've implemented, through this coordination are the destination development plan that was established, and we have a tourism initiative committee wrapped around that. Sustained stakeholder presence and benefits. And that is not only in internal stakeholders, but our external stakeholders through Travel Portland and Travel Oregon, from whom we receive funding, through whom we receive funding, as well as support, technical assistance, and opportunities. A couple of specifics. in terms of infrastructure, and let me step back just to refresh. Really, outdoor recreation and slash recreation is really essentially the destination management plan. We have tremendous assets and potential in Columbia County for outdoor recreation, and nothing has made that more clear than COVID and the influx. And nobody knows that more than Doug or Rachel and John at around Sand Island. COVID has been both a curse and a blessing in terms of our tourism strategy. We've all really had to deal with all the challenges around COVID, but it has driven people, particularly from the most populous metropolitan area in the state, Portland, to very close by Columbia County for water recreation, trail recreation, outdoor recreation, camping, and that sort of thing. So we've had challenges in terms of marketing, but because of restrictions and what we should and should not be trying to do to get people travel, but we've benefited greatly to a greater awareness and the proximity to the largest population base. Specific infrastructure investments are the Salmonberry Trail investment of $25,000 in 2019, $30,000 for Prescott Beach in 2019, and then this year's CCET committed $25,000 to complete the Crown Z Trail Historical Interpretive Project. And we've got a contract with the county now that's underway. We expect that will be done in about midwinter to late winter, certainly in time for through the shoulder season into next spring and travel season. We've also got experience marketing initiatives among the communities underway, and this is pulling together local attractions and creating packages around experiences in each of the communities. That we can, and this is not intended to be go to this restaurant or this motel and ask for a donation. This is, we will purchase the goods and services and charge a consumer price for those when we sell the packages. But it bundles together an experience around each of the communities, lets the communities express its own personality, its own character. Further, we're maintaining inclusivity and complementary marketing, not only with the communities themselves, but also with businesses in the area, as well as making sure that we're piggybacking on Travel Oregon and Travel Portland marketing and advertising. One that we're working on right now is it's a travel writer familiarization package, kind of trying to ramp up for next spring when there should be more mobility and keep Oregon on people's radar screens. They're putting together regional packages, and we were able to, because we've increased our participation with Travel Portland and Travel Oregon, we were able to get the Portland Regional Project or campaign changed from an Asian dinner at home to outdoor and recreation. So we felt pretty good about that, and part of what pushed us on that is our focus on this initiative. One of the challenges we've got working on through this is low historic in-county tourism revenue, and that's not just from consumer spending, but that is transient lodging tax, and we don't have a lot of properties like that. But camping, there is a fee associated with camping, and so we will see more of that as the county campsites are have been about 150% of historic average. But we don't generate a lot there, so we have capitalized on available funds that are grouped together in our Portland travel region. However, because of the statewide drop, significant drop, as you may know, Travel Oregon let go almost 60% of its staff. We were going to get our bite at the apple for $75,000 that rotates around the region, but that was all pulled back because the money just ain't there this year. And so the next year or so are going to be pretty tough in terms of counting on external dollars. We're just going to continue to be very strategic in our paid marketing, capitalize on earned marketing, develop inclusive marketing initiatives where everyone can kind of share a bit of the load, like through those experience packages, and research opportunistic outdoor recreation partnerships with folks like Patagonia and people like that who have a history of partnering. This is all just to generate awareness and try and get people to the county, and then let the communities really sell themselves and put their best character forward. Questions? Well, this is the Ruley Trailhead was dedicated actually about a week and a half ago. This is an example of the interpretive signage projects.
Hey, Paul.
Yes, sir.
I have noticed that a lot more people are also taking up kayaking, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Next Adventure, because those guys do a fairly good job as a business of advertising and making sure they get their message out there. So, yeah,
you're right, Mayor, and we've been really pleased that one of the co-owners of Next Adventure has gotten much more active this year directly. He's attending our tourism meetings. And we really like that, because they don't just have a facility here that everybody wants to go to, but they have a major retail and online retail operation in Portland. They do an awful lot of advertising. They've got a huge community, and that's one of those strategic partnerships that we're looking forward to capitalizing. The port's done a great job also down at the marina, and I think Doug will probably talk about this, but that's somebody owns the facility, and then they've got their tenants that are doing business, and it's been a busy place this year.
Yep.
I'd like to add a bit of history to Scappoose Bay kayaking, Mayor, as long as you brought that up. Steve Gibbons and Bonnie Gibbons had Scappoose Bay kayak, and I was on a way back from San Francisco on Alaska Airlines, and picked up their in-flight magazine and opened the table of contents up, and what was in there was Scappoose Bay kayaking, a big article on it, and on the Alaska Airlines magazine. It comes out quarterly, and I thought, wow, what a great shot in the arm. But there is, once the word gets out that way, businesses flourish. And just when you brought that up about kayaking, that just brought to mind.
Counselor, was that a recent issue?
No. This was, I would say, 7 or 8 years ago, and it spearheaded Scappoose Bay kayaking into what it is now. Mm-hmm. It was just a kind of a mom and pop kind of thing, a dream of Bonnie and Steve Gibbons, and away it went. But they were great marketers, mm-hmm. Unbelievable. And so, I was very much surprised when I opened that up and saw that. Mm-hmm. I went out to him, and I took the magazine to him. He says, "Oh yeah, we've got a lot of copies. A lot of people have responded to that." Okay, anyway,
thank you.
Sorry to go sideways.
It's not a bad segue, because Doug Hayes is up next to talk about activities around the port. And yeah, Doug, sorry to throw off your talking points. You might have to lead with Scappoose Bay.
I was just thinking that, since everyone's talking about it. All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see everyone here. So yeah, Scappoose Bay Marina. Just a couple of numbers just to highlight how busy that we've been this past summer. Over a 3 weekend period, we had over 6,100 visitors to the marina. We're finalizing the numbers now since the season is over, but it looks like we actually made money at the marina, which is very rare you ever see something like that. So what we are doing with the marina, looking ahead, we're actually going to do some redesign work there. We're going to start looking at a designated area for kayakers, and look at expanding the boat ramp as well. So we're going to look at doing that this summer, or I'm sorry, this off season before next summer, to get that done. Because we only anticipate it's going to continue to get busy. As more people see it, we're marketing it. Obviously, we're advertising it, but also just the word of mouth. It's I actually just ran into someone over the weekend down in Tigard. Was struck there. We were just talking about what we used to do, and he actually mentioned Scappoose Bay. He was up there this past summer, the first time he's ever been there. Didn't realize it was that close. He actually thought it was somewhere close to Astoria. So it's really opening up. So the staff did a great job with the marina, and I really appreciate it. Talk about some other things in South County. Some things that we've already done are doing, and then I'll talk about some things going forward. Starting in Scappoose, most folks know that the Debonair building, we started building that. Debonair has actually changed their name to Titan Aviation now. That building should be complete at the end of this month, beginning of November. We'll be sending invites out for a ribbon cutting ceremony here shortly. They will start moving in, and it will be a facility where they do everything from avionics to charter services. They will have a mixture of aircraft, jet, and propeller at that facility. We've also gone into an agreement with Pipistrel Aviation down at the airport. They are a European aviation company. And we are also talking with them about expansion plans. They would like to actually open up a facility where they do aircraft assembly as well. And we just started those talks with them. But they're doing great. What they're currently doing is a lot of training, aviation training at the facility. And they've developed a good relationship with PCC as well. So it's going well. Over the last year, we've redesigned the taxiway down at the airport. Most of you know we've also improved the infrastructure by putting in water and sewer in cooperation with the city. So all the property there now at the airport, that the port has especially, it has no septic tanks, has no wells. We use city water and the central sewer system. At McNulty site, 47 acres there in St. Helens, next to Walmart. It is a certified site now with the state of Oregon. It is shovel ready, and we are actually talking to some folks about that facility for some new tenants. At Multnomah and also at Milton Creek, we are in the process of designing new facilities of buildings for both composites and for rain shadow. We've already started that because they are expanding as well, which is a great sign. I'd already talked Scappoose Bay. The Boise site, I already talked to Rachel last week about it. We are getting someone up there to make some new pictures, have some videos of the site, which we'll include on our marketing sites. And that will be here in the next few weeks. We'll start that. The rail corridor study, phase 1 is complete. All right, now phase 1 was really focusing on stakeholder interviews and a initial assessment of both the rail and how it relates to Highway 30, crossing sites, both vehicle and pedestrian. And the other thing I wanted them to look at, certainly, and I know a lot of people talk about overpasses, and I told them to look at it. I will tell you, overpasses, as many of you know, are very expensive. Okay, very expensive. But some things I did want them to also look at is moving sidings. For instance, in St. Helens, we have those sidings there by Milton, looking at moving them away from the city. All right, so as cars are connected or disconnected, it's not holding up traffic in that area. So they are going to be looking at that. Second phase is going to start after the holidays. That's going to kick off by public comments and public input. We'll certainly work out a schedule with the contractors on how we do that through Zoom or in person. Obviously, we have to see what the environment looks like at the time. But phase 2 will start after the holiday season to receive public input and also to brief the public as far as what they found in their initial assessment. And then Marketing, I will tell you that there is a significant amount of interest in this county. Our marketing sites have increased by 7 to 10 times over this last year period. This time last year to now has increased 7 to 10 times. A lot of those interests is coming from, as you may guess, Portland, from current tenants down in Portland, San Francisco. We're getting a lot of interest from San Francisco and Seattle, which is pretty interesting. We have contacted, and we are still in talks with some of those folks. And certainly as things develop, I'll keep everyone informed about what's going on there. And I'm actually going to close it on a tourism possibility. As most of you know, next to our Railroad Avenue property, we have an area that the port affectionately calls the Wilds. It's roughly about 80 acres, very heavily forested and basalt location. Once we get done with the design work with the marina, we're going to shift gears and actually hire some architects to start looking at turning the Wilds into a park with walking trails, biking trails, facilities, essentially for the community to use. We've done an assessment of that area, and it would be extremely expensive to do anything with the current geotech and the basalt that's there. So we figured, so maybe we just turn this into a facility for the city and the county's use, and just build a park there instead. So that we plan on starting that talks with a designer probably right before the holidays start. So that's a lot of information in a very short amount of time. So certainly any questions, and don't limit it to South County or St. Helens in particular. If you have questions about anything else within the Port District, please don't hesitate.
I have a couple of questions and comments, kind of something that kind of the city's been taking a look at all of our things as we move forward. As people are changing their travel habits, and as the boomers are moving in, are retiring or traveling, they're doing that more locally. And what is the port doing, or do they have funds allocated to reducing barriers in their facilities? I use quite a few of the county and city and different area parks in our neighborhood. And if somebody's 60 years old and has a cane, there's a lot of properties that are not usable. I mean, there's just a lot of people that are in the 55 to 70-year-old range, not necessarily what people would constitute as disabled, but just more fully accessible. As somebody that travels the Northwest, most state parks, certainly larger city parks, are fully accessible for somebody with a walker. And I think that maybe is a growth area for Columbia County, is to be more accessible for people traveling with a grandparent, or people traveling with a special needs child, or just people that don't want to scale off of a rock outcropping to get to the water. I know that we've had a lot of pressure as city to have more fully accessible kayak launches. There are kayak launches now that somebody that's had a knee or a hip replacement can fully access a kayak without, 3 helpers. And I just would hope that, not a specific park, but just to really take that in mind, because there are probably grants and opportunities for, making those modifications without building a whole new park.
Sure. It's a great question. It's something that we've actually talked about as we start redesigning the marina for the kayakers. It's something we've already talked about. It is a little more difficult when you're talking things like Trestle Beach. It's a little bit harder, not impossible, but certainly something that we could look at. And as far as the new park, that is something we would definitely keep in mind as we look at design the new.
Yeah, the Scappoose Bay down there, those little loop trails.
Mm-hmm.
Do those little loop trails quite a bit with my group of folks, and I think about how gentle that water approach is, and how with probably not a huge investment, that could be made even better for people with some mobility issues, or grandma and grandpa and their grandkids kind of thing, to get down there and really access. And I don't think most people that even live in St. Helens even know those trails exist. Because when I tell them about that, they're like, what are you talking about? I don't even know this. But
No, that's a great point. Thank you, ma'am.
yeah, if there's a trail within an hour and 10 minutes of here, I think I've probably been on it, you know, for a wheelchair. And that's what a favorite spot of ours. But I just think it's just a good footnote. You know, we don't always have a $500,000 to rebuild a park, but sometimes your groundskeepers can make things a little better for some folks that need a little help.
Sure. Doug, I have a question. Doug Morton.
Sure. Yes, sir.
I have a question regarding the switching yard for these. This deals with your study of the rail corridor.
Mm-hmm.
And quite a few years ago, I keep going kind of in back time, but this happened. And I think it was before we had our new mayor, Rick Scholl. This was back in the times that we were pressing State Senator Betsy Johnson to look into see if there was any kind of options of placing that switching yard somewhere else other than smack dab in the middle of our city, and anything that we could do to you know, keep that going. And again, it would gain one stride, and we get a report, and it seems like ODOT Rail would say one thing, and then the oil train kind of thing kind of took over on the issue with the rail corridor study. But I'm really interested in what's going on with the switching yard. There seems to be many different places on that rail line where a switching yard could be utilized rather than within our city limits.
And totally agree, Doug. And that is something that I've already had several conversations, both with ODOT Rail. I've had a conversation with P&W as well, and they all certainly see the advantage of moving that away from the city. It would certainly cut down on a lot of the wait time as cars are being connected and disconnected. So yes, I totally agree, and we're on board with it as well. And most people I do talk to kind of agree. If we can move that somewhere else, it would be really advantageous to the city.
I appreciate that, and I just thought I'd bring it up because I don't want something like that to die amongst our council, and like to keep that afloat in terms of it being an issue. And I really appreciate seeing that the rail corridor study is on your agenda.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Doug.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And next we are going to go back to Paul to talk about unifying brand development and marketing for the South County region. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. I'll try and keep this brief. You know, the county marketing and the brand development really is something that runs across or over all of these things we've been talking about, all of the priorities. Tourism, development, industrial development, retention, growth, business expansion, that sort of thing. And this branding effort really needs to be to develop an identity that by which Columbia County can be identified, but that also allows, again, the character of each of the communities to come through. So, you know, when you think of branding, there are really only three types of branding. There's a branded house with something like, you know, like a John Deere brand, where everything John Deere makes is John Deere. You've got a house of brands like a Coca-Cola, where you have, I might get some of the sub-brands wrong, but you've got Coke, you've got Coke Zero, you've got Mountain Dew, you've got various other brands underneath that house brand. And then you have hybrid brands that are a little bit of both, identify with the central brand, but again, you have different products, or in our case, communities or assets that have their own identity, that have their own brand image, and they function underneath that. So it's sort of an all-encompassing effort. It needs to run across the gamut in terms of our audiences, whether they're industrial recruitment, workforce, tourism, you name it. A lot of different audiences, and it's a little bit of a challenging process, but it's a fun one. So we plan to contract with a creative and technical agency to develop an articulated story that reflects and distinguishes Columbia County, but also sort of amplifies the shared attributes and the appeal and the attraction to all these multiple audiences. Develop a marketing strategy and the roadway for execution and implementation, and then develop digital content and tools and materials, which again, because it's a cohesive brand to be co-branded with other entities in the county, all needs to be usable by everyone and really to align well with everyone else's individual efforts. Not so much on just the pure branding side, but to get the sort of the asset gathering and developing the profiles, the various profiles of our community, whether it's small business or tourism sector, that sort of thing. The CCET board committed $75,000 last month from an EDA grant that we got to begin this process. We, as I mentioned, we'll be doing asset assessment and data gathering and analysis, getting a profile of who we have working here, who we have doing business here, all of that to develop this identity that's easily communicated. The challenge with this is marketing funds are not easily found in large grants. And so adequate unrestricted funds for the creative process and the marketing are going to be a little bit of a challenge, but the more we have a plan, the better we're able to actually target those things.
I'm on mute on a council meeting.
We've got a timeline of 3 to 4 months once we get this kicked into gear. And our immediate request is we're talking to your body and reporting to the other elected bodies is to consider and recommend additional either local government or private or other external funding sources that are related to marketing. By that, CRPUD has marketing funds available. If there are marketing funds that become available, everybody's been very focused on COVID funds, but over the next year, we're going to need some more flexible funds as a county in order to implement the strategy. So that's not a problem at this point, but it's something that we'll work into our planning and be targeting sources. Questions?
Just seems like it's going to be really tough challenging to get it all advertised. I mean, we're so multifaceted as far as tourism, small business, the large industry is lacking a little bit, and I'm interested to hear what future potential San Francisco companies could be coming up this way. That sounds good.
Yeah, you're right, Mayor. It's a challenging process, and that's why I've worked in branding processes like this before, where the agency, that's their job, is to take a complex layered story with lots of texture and create a unifying story that is really the brand without suppressing any of the individual stuff. So you always have to have all of your audiences. Who are we talking to? What do we want them to do? What makes us what we are, and how does that appeal to our audiences? That's the agency's responsibility. That's the creative process. And if you hire a good one, and we need to, they'll be able to do that.
Yeah. So Paul, would you see in the future that maybe the cities and / county and port get together and try to actually find a person to continue to do social media pushes, outreach, constantly? I mean, that we have one at the city. Her name's Crystal King, And she works very hard at all, the library, the police, the city council. She's constantly doing something. So it's definitely for our county, could be a full-time position for somebody just doing that.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily how to get it done or how it gets done, but you raise an interesting point, because that's really in the implementation phase, but
Yes.
out of your branding strategy
Yeah.
should come your promotion, your marketing, and those actions and those strategies, and how you do those things and link them together and provide.
Yeah, I'm looking at next step. Exactly. The next step.
You're a couple of steps ahead of us, but it's the right thinking, because that has to be how you're going to execute it. Has to be part of the strategy.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I had. Anybody else? Don't see nobody.
I had one thing, Mayor. I was sitting on my hands trying to figure out how to say this without sounding mean. But just from a relatively outsider, meaning I've lived here 22 years, which makes me an outsider. I think that in this time, that do you think there's a conversation to be had by all groups about diversity and inclusion? That's part of this conversation about branding, to be known as a place that accepts new ideas. Because sometimes I wonder if, we need to work on our our image to be as appealing as a Hillsborough or as a Wilsonville, because we are close, we are affordable, we have the access to the river and the access to the rail. So I wonder what piece of the puzzle it is that maybe needs some polish, maybe needs some more inclusion to make companies from out of state, because the innovators from, Seattle, the innovators from Silicon Valley are not going to, it takes a lot for them to look at a little rural town. And so it's like, is there a way that we can market ourselves better as being more collaborative, as being more equitable as a small town?
Well,
No.
And as a collection of small towns, and I think that's a much bigger discussion. But I think just to try and address it, ESG and equity are really at the forefront of all the conversations right now, and you're seeing that change in corporate America and in boardrooms, and I don't think you can be competitive in the marketplace without addressing where you fit in all that. And it's not just your own attributes, but it's also what is your target audience looking for as well. So that really has to be a part of every conversation, I think.
No, if I may, what we did at the fort, and this is a very important question. So we're taking it from a point of access. How accessible are we to other groups and diversity? So one of the things that we did on our website, for instance, is we made a link on there with several different languages. Not just Spanish, but we have both dialects of Chinese, we have Korean, we have Russian, we have Arabic. So it's having that access, so that if someone is searching and they can actually see what we're trying to present from the port's point of view. And it's also about getting out there too, going out into different areas. I think the Korean community in Portland is the largest minority in Portland. So going down there and actually having a conversation with businesses who are looking to expand, we certainly went out there and did it. Sometimes it's just legwork.
Well, I for one would be way open to the recommendations of this body, so we could be more inclusive and more coordinated. That we would be, so now whether they were approaching industrial property in any of the communities, that they would feel a part of it, that they would feel welcome. Because we don't want somebody to not feel welcome just simply because of a language barrier or because of a culture barrier. We want to at least act and open the door for people that, of course, we want to do business with people. So recommendations, I think the council would love to hear them, would love to get updates on where you are so we can be consistent countywide.
One of the things that you talked about was the rail going through here. I didn't hear you talk about the river going through here. I know the South Koreans and a number of the people would love to have the ability, especially the Pacific Rim, to move cargo off ships, to repair ships. How come there hasn't been a big push to improve the whole Columbia County river use? Is there some reason we don't talk about the river?
I'm sorry, Steve, who are you addressing that to?
Any of you. I mean, the biggest water we've talked to about is the kayak place. And right now, the Army Corps needs to give us some water for the river to bring the river level up. But we have an international waterway here that we haven't talked about connecting to.
So, well, I can tell you from the port's perspective. So the port does have a deep river facility at Port Westward. I think you know that.
Yeah.
We also have a facility at Columbia City. Right now with just one user on it, Clearwater, but with available acreage of 40 acres, which is also shovel ready. And we're actually talking to different tenants. One of the tenants we're actually talking to is the Army Corps. They're actually very interested in that facility because they cannot do anything else at their St. John's facility because it's a brownfield site. So I've actually had a face-to-face meetings a couple of times with the Corps who've been up here looking at that site. Now, understand, working with the federal government takes a very long time. All right, so outside of that, we're still marketing that site. Again, 40 acres there. In Port Westward, that's where a lot of our international shipping is going in and out of. So certainly not as far down here as St. Helens. Anything beyond St. Helens, you're really talking Portland. Ships that are going to Portland or back.
Well, if you go to the slough over towards the Scappoose Landing, there's some port property that you could turn into tugboat repair or barge repair, and I don't see that being pushed. As I said, we've got a huge river, and even as a whole state, I don't see us marketing the river as a port. Seattle is a pain. The bottom in San Francisco isn't the greatest thing going. We've got a much better, we'll say, channel condition, and I don't really see a whole lot of push to make this a major shipping port. And it's a lot easier for us to get cargo through the gorge to the rest of the U.S. than it is other places.
Steve, Doug Morton, there's been a big reason for that. And the reason, one of the huge reasons is that as Oriental companies have come over here and looked at purchasing port land, or land not owned by the port, but any kind of land that could be utilized as a port, they shy away from it because they want to bring their entire workforce over. And if they can't bring their workforce over, they aren't interested because they don't want to pay American workers for doing the work that for them, and they want to bring their whole establishment over. And fortunately, we're protected by the Port of Columbia County from that happening. And I know of two properties: the old Chris Oak plant, which was a Superfund site, and our riverfront district as well was looked at heavily by one, Japan, and I believe the other was South Korea. Those two companies, for sure. I sat in on talks on one of them. So, they aren't interested when it comes down to investing. They simply won't do it unless they can bring their entire workforce over.
Well, what's different from Portland out or Tokyo out? People that pay taxes are people that pay taxes. Money's money.
You tell them that.
Yeah, I know. But as I say, are we making it so that just in our attitude that foreign companies can't come in because they have a particular way of working? Now, one of the problems that both Japan and South Korea and even China are having are their workers are asking for more money than they want to pay. So,
it's a double-edged sword. It's if we want to open it up to foreign intervention, you know, fine. Yeah, then we'll have to pay the price on that. But for now, I think we're being protected by the Port of Columbia County. I really do. I think everything that they're doing is a good thing in terms of protecting our port waters, our riverways, because it can be very reckless, and especially with foreign intervention.
Okay, well, I just want to chime in and say thank you. I think, are you guys done with this presentation, Rachel? I think that was wrapping up pretty close.
Yep, we are right about there. And thank you for the discussion and the focus on the river always. We intend to move forward. The group is working very well together and we would like to continue doing so. It really does serve all of our constituents for us to be unified as a South County region. And it really is bringing a lot of value to the work, as are these conversations. I do know you have a very full agenda. I want to thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to everybody who's putting in the time, the South collaborative effort. Together we can. So I like it. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next item. And we are over an hour into our meeting. So I just want to let council know that we do have an executive session later too. So number 2 is Recreation Program Semi-Annual Report. Shauna.
Hi there, thanks for having me today. So if Matt would start my presentation, please. Awesome. So I'm just here to give the Recreation Department's City Council reports. So the first slide here, you'll see our mission for the recreation program. So we are building culture. We are creating an inclusive environment for educational and affordable activities to thrive in St. Helens as a means of further connecting in our community. One of our programs that we had started back in October 2018 is our SHARP program. That stands for St. Helens After School Recreation Program. It's a program that we offered enrichment activities such as chess, sewing. We had a maker's corner, art, sports, homework support. We really prided ourselves on the partnerships that we had formed with other community-based agencies. As you can see in the first picture and the third picture, we had OSU Extension Office come in. They had brought us some trout eggs to hatch. And each day we got to observe and record what was happening inside the tank. And when they hatched, they were released at Trojan Park. So that was a really cool experience for the kids. The middle picture there, you'll see them creating. So we have a portable over at Lewis and Clark that has both sides of the portable that we're able to use. One side is set up more of like a classroom learning space, and the other side is set up just a maker's corner. So we have sewing machines, we have a Cricut, we have all sorts of stuff over there for the kids to be able to think outside the box and do some hands-on learning. All 30 of our spots were full, so we were completely enrolled at that time. And we had 4 elementary schools in the St. Helens School District that fed into the one program at Lewis and Clark. The next slide, you'll see we had middle school after school clubs. So those just started right before everything happened with COVID. That was a really cool partnership because we were able to utilize a grant that the middle school had gotten that they weren't able to make it happen with their staff members. So they had asked us if somehow we can come in and do the grant for them, and they would give us a space. So we were able to put 4 of our staff members in there, and the St. Helens Library moved their anime club over. So you can see on there, there was homework club, anime, a gamers club, media, and yoga. We had over 80 middle school students attending those on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They were free for everyone. And we were getting ready to offer our next 6-week program that included other clubs, but we were shut down when the school was. So we will look forward to starting those back up. So the St. Helens Youth Basketball League, we hosted over 375 youth Those were ages 4 years old to 6th grade. And then we also had a separate partnership with the St. Helens Youth Basketball, which they were able to bring in some of their older age groups because we both were lacking teams in the older age groups, so we were able to play each other. So altogether, we had about 500 kids that were playing on the weekends. We were in the 3 schools Monday through Saturday for practicing games. We were able to employ 9 high school students to be referees. And then we had 4 other staff members that helped run those programs. And then COVID happened. And so all of our in-person programming at that time was closed. We were in the schools for a lot of our programming. So what we really try to do is I try to focus on the cans instead of the can'ts. So I did have to lay off all of our staff. So it's just me over here. I really looked at what the community needed, what our community partners were doing, and how we can combine those together and create opportunities for our citizens. We had a weekly call with childcare resources and providers, keeping tabs on things that were needed and helping them with the information that we had available. One of the programs that we kept going was virtual coffee and connect. So before it was in person, but we were able to do that virtual, and that really is an opportunity for us to kind of find out what people know about the rec program, what kind of programs they'd like to see, and just having that connecting moment. We're looking at starting those back up in November. We did take a little bit of a break on those, but I am looking to start those community chats back up again, and anybody's welcome to come in and chat with us. One of our main partnerships that we had was with our fantastic library that we have here. I know you all know how great they are. Gretchen and I have worked together on other projects, but during COVID, we really formed a great relationship. In fact, this morning we had our first nature buddy walk, and she read the story, and then we went on a walk together with some of our younger ages 1 to 4-year-olds in the park on the trail, which was awesome. But she is, you know, an expert in certain areas. I can sprinkle in some things in other areas. So we've been able to create a really authentic and helpful partnership. And in one of those partnerships, we did 1,500 activity kits that we were able to distribute throughout the community for free. And those also had other partnerships involved with that. And you'll see those on the last slides, but we were able to distribute those through the food bank and also through the library and the recreation center. The next slide here, you'll see our story stroll. So I had been in a few groups and watching other cities, and they have different things like this. And I thought, what a great opportunity to bring something like this to McCormick Park. So Gretchen and I talked about what that would look like, and we were able to come up with some books that we thought would be a really great fit. And with the Parks Department and Public Works, we're able to get those installed on a temporary basis, and we're really hoping that one day we could have a permanent fixture there so we can change out the information and maybe have a space for flyers so people know what's going on, because a lot of people do walk those trails. And one thing that has been amazing through all of this is being able to go into the parks more and just seeing how many people use our parks and love them and all the amenities that they offer. The next slide here, you'll see that we did story time and art in the park. So we read stories to the kiddos, and while we were reading the stories, Matt, if you'll just switch the slide to the next one, thank you. You'll see Gretchen there reading stories. We did social distancing. Everybody was very respectful of that. We just made it clear that we want to have programming, but we need you to help us do that. And then you'll see on the right-hand side, me teaching. I'm not the best crafter, but I put together a hot air balloon kit. And you'll see that somebody snapped a picture of me for our next slide, which is our virtual scavenger hunts. So we had gotten a grant through the Blazers and Nike called the Play Grants. And that was supposed to be used to bring people together for play. Well, right now that's not really a thing that we can do. So I got creative and I found a virtual scavenger hunt that we could host. And you'll see on the middle slide, it has different activities that you can do. And so each week I uploaded a whole new set of activities. It took our participants all around St. Helens to the parks, trails, businesses. We had weekly prizes and picture uploads. Participants discovered new things around the city, including one of them was take a trip over to Sand Island. And then I also had them every week picking up trash in the parks. And I've heard from a few of our participants that that's now a family activity that they go and do. So I think it just brought a lot of pride to our community and also a lot of discovery of places that they didn't even know were there. One of our activities that we're doing right now, and this one is a partnership through the recreation program and the St. Helens Library and also the OSU Extension Office, is Let's Play. So Let's Play is a Tuesday activity from 3 to 4 o'clock. We do a physical activity and then we do a STEAM activity. So science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And with that, you see in this picture here, we did a marble art. So we put paper inside the box and they had marbles and made a painting. And each week they're at a different park. And we're able to also bring a mobile library there and other services. So you guys talked about Next Adventure earlier, the kayaking. They've been an amazing partner with us. And I just had a phone call with them early this week on some other things that we can do together. They donated a bunch of coats to us from their store. And so we've been able to give those out at these activities too, which has been awesome. And people seem to really enjoy that. Our fall events are, we have our Let's Play activity. So that's, like I said, Tuesdays from 3 to 4 at different parks. We are offering a physical activity and then another activity, and that is for elementary school age kiddos. We're doing a scarecrow contest. So if anybody needs to enter a scarecrow, be sure to do that soon because we'll be judging for those the weekend of October 17th and 18th. We started Nature Buddies today, which is for ages 1 through 4. And today's activity was we read a story and then we went on a scavenger hunt on the story trail. And then on October 31st, we're having a drive-through trick or treat behind the rec center. And we've partnered with several organizations to help that go smoothly. So if you would like a booth in the city council, let us know because we would love to have you there. And then continuing education. During this time, I've really been trying to go to any kind of classes I can go to. I'm in a really great group with the Oregon Parks and Recreation Association, so I've learned a lot of different things and how they're doing things. I did get my certificate for being a certified youth sports administrator. So what that does is it's really promoting a safe and positive and fun youth sports experience for kids in our community. And it doesn't mean just the sports that we're in charge of here at the rec program. I plan on reaching out to all youth sports and getting us all on the same page so we have the same expectations for our coaches, our parents, et cetera, in our community. So I'm excited to get that going. Grants for 2020. So I've dabbled in writing grants a little bit, and I'm pleased to say that I've been awarded 2 that I've applied for. So one of them is the Columbia Pacific CCO Community Wellness Investment Fund. So that was awarded, and actually I just got the official letter today, so I can talk about it, for $25,000. That will help me bring on a part-time person to help with some of these programs and also help with out-of-school times. So we are looking at providing social and emotional learning for local kids, creating a community wellness hub throughout the community with a help desk model that can help create connections and give out information for our families. So if they are in need of information, we have a one-stop shop type thing where we can get them to where they need to be. We also got the Blazer Play Grant, which that one was for $10,000. And that one was to provide play in the community. And so we're just being creative on what that play looks like. They've been really great about letting us be a little creative in it with everything going on. And then you know about the MODA grant that was for the all-inclusive playground, which tomorrow I'm actually taking a field trip with a few folks out to Portland, and we're going to look at some of the MODA playgrounds that were built out there to kind of get an idea of what those look like, so we can bring back that here, some feedback here for what playground equipment seemed to be really working well there, and maybe things that they wish they would have done differently, so we can get going on that project.
Donna, is that the confirmed amount on the MODA?
Yep.
Good. When did we find that out?
What was that?
When did we find that out?
I think there was an email end of last week.
Good.
That went out. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's really
anticipated. Yes.
Really exciting.
Yeah.
So ongoing and future programs. So I am so in love with our trails out here and parks. Like, I have lived out here a long time, but even myself didn't know all of the amazing things that we had. And so I really want to create some more nature and trail programs out here for recreation. We have our bicycle program that we had talked about before. Those were the bikes that we had gotten from the police station that we are fixing up to push back out to the community, but I would love to create even a more comprehensive one that is able to sustain, and maybe it's something that the youth work on it and put back out. Story strolls, I mentioned before that I would love to get a permanent story stroll going. So, and then also maybe offering them in other parts of the city, either on a permanent basis or a temporary basis. Every time I go to McCormick Park, there's several families looking at those story strolls. So I think those are fun. And then the mobile recreation and library. So instead of expecting people always to come to us being able to get out and get to them too. Vision for the future. So really trying to sprinkle in programs as guidelines allow. So I've been a little, just making sure that we're, following everything we need to. And as you know, new guidelines come out quite often. So staying on top of those. So keeping our current programming, even during the rainy weather. I mean, we live in Oregon. Nature is something we do out here. And so really finding opportunities that we can partner together. Gretchen and I at the library have talked a lot about this, and I really look forward to continue to work really closely with our library. Future programming, creating the teen programs, doing some out-of-school time support, outdoor play group, which that we started today, some more family programs. I would love to create a wellness hub, more physical activities and connecting events, and just really building community through activity, which is our mission statement. So these are our partnerships and sponsors, and these are a little different than what you guys were sent out originally because there's a second page of them as well. Or actually, I'm sorry, Matt must have combined them all on one page. So there's more than what you thought, which is great. So I just have really tried to build authentic relationships with our partners out here. We have such an amazing community of people who are doing awesome things, and instead of recreating the wheel, just sprinkling in where we can. They've been really awesome about lending their resources. A lot of us are down to 1 or 2 staff, so if we can work better together, I think that's just a smarter way to do it. And yeah, so lots of people on here. And these are just our partnerships and sponsorships from 2020. And so, we've had other people who've donated throughout the past as well. But yeah, so that is my presentation. So do you guys have any questions for me or comments?
I have a question / comment, but you knew I did. I sent an email a couple weeks back with the beginning of distance learning. Lots of parents have kids that are in PE class, and I struggled to give a couple of parents information about our trails. And then I went to try to look, and it was like solving the labyrinth, trying to figure out the trail, because I know where it is, but short of going and picking them up and walking them there, I couldn't send them a link. And I know that Matt had talked about, said you were coming up with something that might be a better quick reference for all those students that are being assigned. I mean, my son is in high school and he's assigned a half-an-hour walk every single day. And so, I mean, that's just one student, and we've got a pretty big school district and a lot of parents out there looking. And I knew that he said you guys were working on it, and I just didn't know if you had any feedback about that.
I've been really trying to make it to the Parks and Trails Commission, and that is a piece of feedback that I had given them as well. I think that you're right on with us needing a little bit more information to put out. One of my things with the Community Wellness Hub is to be able to be a support for handing those things out. I'm not sure where they are with that. I think what Matt was referring to is uploading the things that were already done, and maybe Matt can answer that onto the website. But I am not involved in any sort of trail maps or anything.
Use the trail word, so you opened yourself up for that.
Yeah. I love the trails, and I'm full supportive in however I could help make that happen. I totally
You
will.
have an active partnership with the school district that is continual and ongoing. And just as being a mother of kids that have graduated and having students all the time, I'm sure you get a lot of parental feedback about people looking to fill that PE requirement for their students. So that's why I asked you. I thought you're a natural conduit.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you asking me, and I will definitely put the word out there. I think with the 2 grants that we have, we'll be able to sprinkle in a little bit more activities that are a little bit more structured PE type things is part of my goal. I cannot wait for the Campbell Park upgrades to be done. So we're going to be playing pickleball and tennis and all those things. So yes, so Jenny, I will definitely make sure that comes up in some conversations that I have in the future with other folks.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Shauna, thank you for the great presentation. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next item on the agenda. Review proposed bench donation for Great Cliff Waterfront Park. I imagine Sue Nelson. I don't have a contact on this. Is it Sue? Yeah.
I'm not Sue, but I'm not sure, but I can get Sue to see if she's available.
I thought Doug talked about it last meeting.
But he did. He talked about the landing.
Okay.
I can talk about it if you want.
Sure, I don't. Yeah.
I hadn't.
We should ask a little bit more about this one.
Pardon?
I should have asked a little bit more about this one.
Yeah, this is a new request. I believe what Doug had talked about at the last meeting was some other benches that I don't recall which community club it was.
Lions.
Lions, okay. So this is a specific request, as another request that came to the Parks Commission, because it's not an art bench, it's just a bench that has been requested to be installed at Great Cliffs Park by a family as a memorial bench for 2 family members who had recently passed away. And the mother had specifically requested that she would like to have a memorial bench in her name overlooking the river. So the request went to the Parks Commission. The Parks Commission then recommended this for approval by the council.
Does it replace one of the existing benches, or is there a new location?
So I didn't ask that much. So it goes down further into the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the north end, the idea was to get a concrete pad for not only 1 bench, but 3 benches, one looking downriver, one kind of looking upriver, and the 1 bench looking straight over to Sand Island. And that way you could do a grouping. The concrete pad would already be there for people who wanted to add, and there are service groups who do want to add benches. So I thought, wow, this would be perfect to get all 3 of these in one place at one time. And we talked about that years before, as well as having concrete pads for benches in groupings. And that went by the Parks Commission. The Parks Commission liked the idea, so that's where we're at.
Okay, I was just clarifying for my own knowledge because I used to walk down there and there's the ones at the turnaround. So this is a brand new installation.
This will
Yeah,
be
on
a new
the
bench.
far end.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted clarity if people thought benches were going away. This is a whole new area.
No, not at all.
Thank
We
you.
have some on both ends.
Lots of people. It'd be great to have places to sit down when we put away the picnic tables, to still be able to walk down there and for people to sit and enjoy the space.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Somebody tell Keith he's muted.
Keith, you're on mute.
So I saw part of the presentation was that we were to maintain it, and I'm not sure exactly what else was on there, but you know, we talked about the longevity of benches, is whether, you know, when the bench is old and decrepit, what do we do with it, and do we replace it and keep that on for eternity? And at the time we said no, and you know, if a bench gets too bad to be around, it's gone, and you know, we don't replace it because, you know, we open up spots for new people or whatever the case. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, it does say that on the donation form that is submitted with the request. So it says that the decision of what to do with it when it becomes in disrepair is the city's.
well, my question would be, would it look kind of funny having the other two spots? I was interpreting a totally different area where we already have the benches when we were talking, and I was envisioning that, but will it look funny, and how hard is it? I don't know with Public Works. I imagine it's bags of concrete. You're not getting a concrete truck even if you did 3 sites.
No, it would be bags, and it would be it would be probably a little simpler to do 1 pad at a time as the bench is installed. But that's to be determined. Yeah, if we have all of the benches, then we know exactly what size they need to be, the pads and everything. So.
There is talk of a couple other benches. That's
which would be great eventually. Yes.
They just haven't committed yet.
It would be nice to get a city standard on some benches, and you know, like to have them identical and start. You know, I really want to see what the composite one looks like over at McCormick Park. Is it installed yet?
Well, Mayor, here's the problem with that is that Lions Club has a line of benches, and this is going to, I believe this might be one of the benches, I'm not certain, but the Kathy Sursat came forward and went to the Parks Commission, and they like that bench that the Lions Club is wanting to donate in our parks. And I keep saying parks because this is an ongoing thing that the Lions Club will have for years and years and years and years. They will keep donating benches because of their national organization. And it's that style of bench that, and maybe we should bring that style to the city council so the city council can weigh in, but the Parks Commission certainly weighed in and they like the bench. So if we want to muddle everything up and go back and say, okay, what kind of benches are we going to have? And how long can we have those benches, and who's the manufacturer, and how long will they be making that? You know, I'm not so sure, but I don't want to alleviate the Lions Club with their idea that they have not unlimited, but many benches to give to the parks in years to come.
Yeah, now I understand that. I think we're talking about 2 different benches here. I think we're talking.
Probably.
I'm talking about one that a family member is donating in lieu of his mom into the dog park.
Right.
That park, and I wanted to see what that composite one looked like.
Yeah. So the one that was reviewed a few weeks ago, that is going to be installed in the dog park in McCormick Park. That, since the council approved that. The family has ordered it, but it has not yet arrived. So when it arrives, that will be installed in the dog park. And this is a different bench that's also been to the Parks Commission, and now this is the second step here too.
I mean, even if we had a standard of like 3 different style benches, at least we wouldn't get into a multifaceted bench situation. And maybe you order a package deal, Doug. Maybe we have some stored at the shop. Maybe ordering 10 is cheaper than ordering.
Good idea to have some in stock and say, we already have a ready-made bench. Here it is. And the cost is such and such, and let it go at that.
Yeah.
I think that the Parks Commission can work that out. I think as long as we approve the site, I'm happy with the parks. I mean, you have city staff there, Sue's at the Parks Commission, Thad's there, you're there. I mean, you guys can make the decision on type of bench as long as we know where it's going.
Well, we have kind of a different policy that the Parks Commission gives the council a recommendation. And so at least the council can hear the recommendation and we can do business as usual. Okay, the Parks Commission has already done it. So that's kind of the norm with the Parks Commission. They see things and they give the council a recommendation, and all the council has to do is approve it for transparency, if nothing else.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that we need to just move forward and we've okayed this location of the bench, and I think we can work out the details.
Yeah.
Doug, you had made a comment which is very, very good. You talked about grouping benches together so people could face each other and be a group. Should we kind of make it a policy or a strong suggestion that any place we put benches, we kind of have that ability to put groups together?
Well, that comes at an unusual time, Steve. Do those benches come with masks or what?
Yes, you opposite ends. You use opposite ends. But that's one of the things that has been pointed out in, we'll say, people-friendly parks, when you arrange benches so people can communicate with you.
Yeah.
That was
exactly. Well, I certainly see that at the dog park. I see it at all our parks where there's just more than a group of people will want to visit with one another as they're sitting watching the river go by. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So when the people start arranging them, make sure we have enough room for the rest of the pads.
Exactly.
All right. So I think we got a pretty good idea on that now. Okay, so let's review proposed amendment to police sergeant job description, Chief Greenway. Maybe.
Chief, are you there?
That's right. We need to shorten up my agenda anyhow.
If the chief doesn't pick up, I think this is pretty simple. I could probably take it if you're. You want to give him another minute?
No, go ahead, John.
Okay, this is a pretty straightforward revision to the job description for the police sergeant. And as you may recall, recently we created the position of corporal, and this addition to this job description adds only a few words here, and that is the preference to hold the corporal rank. So people moving from through a succession plan would move from from officer to corporal to sergeant to lieutenant, and yeah, that's it. So,
yeah. I don't see no issue with that.
That shouldn't be too controversial.
Nope.
No problems.
So that's on the agenda tonight for approval.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Request authorization of street vacation petition for a portion of South 2nd Street, Jenny Dim Show.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I share my screen, Matt?
Hang on one second.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, can you all see that?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so this is a request from this property owner. I've got my circle on the lot that they own. And they are working on gathering signatures for this triangular portion that they'd like to vacate. And as you know, with street vacations, we create an affected area, and that's this yellow portion, and they need to get signatures for 2/3 of those property owners. And we're on South 2nd, which is next to the veneer property. And so this whole gray area is city owned. And so in order for them to move forward with the formal public hearing and approval, they are requesting authorization from the city as a property owner. And now historically, Jacob said for decades that property owner consent was usually assumed if the city council approved the street vacation during the formal public hearing process. But after a legal challenge in 2012 with the St. Helens Marina application that you might remember, we learned that the city's consent as a property owner actually needs to be formalized before staff determines that there's adequate consent to bring it to public hearing. So the request is that we sign off as a property owner, not approve the formal street vacation. And they have an architect who prepared kind of an application that we don't really need to get into, but I did want to show you this cool rendering that they made, just to show you that they do plan on developing the property with homes. And this kind of shows you on a 3D scale where that right-of-way that they're requesting to be vacated is. So I just thought that was a helpful graphic. But again, we're not actually approving the street vacation. There's still a formal process where we would notify utilities and actually prepare a staff report and have opportunity for public comment.
So we're just allowing them the ability to go forward with a public hearing.
Exactly. So the actual consent form that you're authorizing the mayor to sign looks like this. And the mayor is very familiar with these because he had all of his neighbors sign them. So the property tax lot numbers that the city owns are these two. It's the veneer property and a small little piece that is not contiguous for whatever reason. It's a separate tax lot. So does anyone have questions about this?
Yes. This is going to be an extremely valuable piece of property, just a little piece that is in the street when we develop the veneer property. And I'm not sure that we ought to give these people a heads up on a super prime property by giving them this piece of property. I could see the city selling it to them, but not just vacating the street and giving it to them.
So
I'm talking, Rick, we've given property away other parts of Nob Hill, which later came to bite us because we couldn't use the sidewalks because we had already given that away. And I think this piece of property is too valuable to not study pretty hard how we could use it. We, the city, could use it with the waterfront property.
All right, so I just want to make it clear. This is just a process to actually vacate, which is allowable, and we'd be foolish probably not to sign off on it and allow somebody to go through the process of going through a public hearing, Councilor Topaz, where then you can have your testimony given just like
so,
you did.
Mr. Mayor, if I might add to that, Councilor Topaz, it sounds like your concerns are deliberating on the approval of this street.
Yes.
I'm worried about setting a precedent of giving away city property.
Right. So what I'm saying is that this is not approval of the street vacation itself. We're not giving away any property by authorizing the mayor to sign this. We're allowing this property owner to move forward with gathering signatures. And because the city is so much of their consent area, it just allows the process to happen. There's still going to be deliberations in a formal public hearing where you can bring up those very same issues. This is not approval.
And you could bring, you know, on mine, particularly, I had the senior center, I had the Petersons, I had Bill Amos, I had a number of people who were there for my vacation, and you don't know. They don't know. We don't know. Nobody's deliberated on this. It's just the very beginning process. You pay $25 to get the map. Then once they get the signatures, they pay another $800 and some odd to have the hearing. And they take that risk of either they get in favor of or not.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I have to follow up with Steve Topaz's logic in terms of maybe this is going to be a waste of time for them if everyone on the council feels the way Steve Topaz feels. So I think Steve is just kind of doing a heads up in terms of alleviating a long drawn out process and a lot of energy. And so in some senses, I appreciate the way he kind of weighs in on where this is going to go if other council people feel very similar. And so I think that just to follow up on his logic of why he said something.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that's a good point, Councilor Morton. I also wouldn't want to bypass the formal public process where staff has the opportunity to look at all aspects of the street vacation and form a recommendation. I would hate to kill it at this point. I just don't think that that's an unfair practice. I would
Likewise. And as president of the council, I have a due diligence to make certain that the entire process is followed.
Right.
But I just wanted to say that I understand where Mr. Topaz is coming from.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Do any other councilors want to weigh in?
Furthermore, I just need to state this for the record, that by landowners, the abutting landowner are the only ones entitled to that property. Are the only ones entitled to that property. You need to understand everything behind what you guys are trying to say. And I would not want to cut anybody off in the future in our whole city and this set of precedent over our whole city where it makes sense to vacate land and not vacate. Let them do the process is all of this is a sign off for signatures. That's it.
You know, one of the problems that have come up is the original city map that laid out streets, even though they dropped off. I mean, we're kind of eating a problem that got started 100 and some years ago.
Mm-hmm. And Councilor Topaz, that's a good point. The topography in this area is difficult to build a road.
I'm not worried about building a road. I'm interested in building a super high end restaurant, and that'd be a great place to put it. I'm not putting a standard house there. I'm talking about high end.
All right.
That would match the waterfront. And I agree that we have to go through the process, Rick.
Yeah, and I'm going to call order on this, and I want to. It's on the agenda to get a sign off for the application, the beginning stages of an application to vacate tonight.
Okay, and as I say, but that I want to bring the other back to we'll say formal procedure. Buying and selling land. There's ORS.
You can school me in the hearing. You can school me on the hearing, Topaz. I'm going to call order because we're way behind the schedule right now.
Well, I still would like to talk and to continue a bit about the officialness of buying and selling land.
But Councilor Topaz, it's out of order. It's irrelevant to the discussion right now, and that's why you're out of order.
This is public land that we're discussing.
We're just discussing a vacation process, the very beginning stages.
It's also almost break time. So Councilor Locke and Carlson, I haven't heard from you. I just kind of want to hear if you would support a motion tonight for authorizing the mayor to sign this.
We have rules and we have a planning commission and a process for a reason. So I think that everybody deserves their day in the process. To weigh in prior to it going to the planning commission would be, I think, not appropriate.
And I would point out, this is a decision body for the council to decide, not the planning commission.
But they do make a recommendation on all street vacations.
Sometimes,
yeah, I'll chime in. This is Jacob, city planner. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so it was around about that famous St. Helens Marina vacation where we asked the council about planning commission recommendation on vacations, and it came before the council twice, but I think it was before Rick was the mayor. And the last where we left off was if we thought there was potential controversy, then we could ask the council if they would like a planning commission recommendation or not. And given that this came up, this may be a pertinent question in this case is, so tonight's all about just giving the consent to go through the process. Deliberations happen later. But would you like the planning commission to chew on this before it gets to you at the public hearing? And you are not obligated to give it to the planning commission. It's just a matter if you would like their input before you make a decision.
My personal view is yes, I would, and for the simple reason is that they are. Sometimes it's good to have a second opinion before it comes directly to the council. And where this has to do with our waterfront, I think the more insight and the more involvement, the better. Before we make a knee-jerk decision or a knee-jerk reaction that isn't well vetted.
I agree.
Works for me.
I'm okay with it either way. I did, I did 2 planning commission meetings and 2 city council meetings on my vacation. I did 4 total.
Councillor Morton.
Sure.
Okay, so this will go before the planning commission for a recommendation to you. So I didn't hear from Councillor Locke. Would you support a motion tonight?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Are there any other questions about what you're authorizing tonight?
Jacob, boy, we got you here, but I was correct in saying that the abutting landowner is the only one who can petition to vacate a portion of street.
You are correct.
Okay.
The land can only go back to the property from which it came. In this case, looking at the exhibit, we know that they're asking for half of the Second Street right-of-way, which came from those lots. And so it couldn't be vacated. Well, conceivably, it could go to another property owner, but it would have to be a vacation and lot line adjustment.
I just want to make sure I wasn't giving out this information. That's all.
You are correct, Mayor. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So one more question, Jacob.
Yep.
So at one time, I was told that we could not charge for vacated property. Is there a law on that?
I believe that we can. If you want to give me a minute, I can look at my notes because that did come up before.
If you can just maybe get us the information by tonight, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, that works. I know you're behind. I'll look that up and send you all an email.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Guys.
It is funny because we all start getting riled up, and it is that time. So we're going to take our 10-minute break. It's 3 o'clock, and then when we get back, we'll discuss towing request for proposal. Okay.
I'm back on.
Okay, am I unmuted? Everybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Looks like everyone is back, Mayor.
Okay. All right, we will we're back from our recess, and just to make it clear on the street vacation proportion, it sounds like we might have to clean up some language as far as our policies are concerned, as far as whether they go to planning commission or not go to planning commission. And I know that was changed before I got here, but I would like to look into that and either make it a permanent, it goes to the planning commission for referral or not. So we need to look into that a little further. And with that, it's only a application for, and I wish we wouldn't have gotten into that discussion as far as we did. Okay, so now we're going to review the process for towing requests for proposal.
On the agenda tonight is—
What you got, Matt?
Yeah, on the agenda tonight is an updated RFP for exclusive towing services. If approved tonight, the RFP would go live on the website tomorrow. It would then also be sent to the local newspaper for publication and notification out to the public of the RFP. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. One thing that did come up in our earlier discussion was whether we were going to specifically mail Grumpy's Towing a copy of this RFP. I did review the RFP that the city of Scappoose did actually do a few months ago and just renewed the contract with Grumpy's Towing. They did not specifically send out notices to specific tow companies. They put an ad in the local spotlight paper. Grumpy's was the only person to respond to that RFP. And so the city of Scappoose decided to continue exclusive towing services in Scappoose with Grumpy's Towing. So I would like to recommend following the same process of putting the RFP in our local paper. But if you would like me to send out a specific copy of the RFP to Grumpy's Towing, that I work at your pleasure. So I will look to your direction if you would like to do that.
How's the council feel?
Doug, you're on mute right now.
Unmute. There we go. I kind of feel that if you put out an RFP, if you're going to do that, that you go through both papers, Scappoose, St. Helens in a kind of the South Columbia County community, Columbia City, if they have newsletters, and possibly down to Rainier, but I'm not certain about Rainier. That's kind of out of our jurisdiction. But I just think that if it goes out for an RFP, that you make certain it just goes to more than just one newspaper.
It could certainly be put in both the Spotlight and the Chronicle paper.
Good.
The only other question I have would be that is if any of the city council members wanted to sit on the rating committee. The last time we went through this RFP, it was myself, the police department had a designated person, and then there was one city councilor. And then it was made as a recommendation to the city council based on those three evaluations. If there is a city councilor that would like to sit on this rating of an RFP, I'm happy to take one who would volunteer, but if you would not like to, that's perfectly fine. We can find staff internally to do this evaluation.
Oh, I know Keith would be really interested in doing that. He's done such a good job in the past. Come on, Keith, raise your hand, buddy.
Keith, you're on mute.
I think he's going to stay on mute.
He's on mute.
He's on mute on purpose.
Yeah.
I said as long as it's in the next couple of months.
Really?
The RFP would go out tomorrow. Evaluations would be done in early November, and then we would eventually work through a selection process and come back to the city council in late November or December with a contract for approval.
Okay, sign me up.
Don't say Keith doesn't do anything. I love it.
All right.
Way to go, Keith.
Unless there's any other questions, that's all I had, Mayor.
Oh, that's it. All right. Discussion regarding Main Street program. Just kind of curious of, especially after Mr. Preheim's testimony of where Main Street is at. And it's kind of listening to Terry Stewart's presentation was very clear that there needed to be some changes in the Shedco organization. Kind of the ball's in their court as far as revamping Shedco, and then it was move on from there was her recommendation, is what I heard. And I don't know if I'm the only one who heard it that way.
What I heard was it has to be changed, but I don't think the city giving money and changing are connected. I mean, you don't have to do one and then do the other, or not do one and then do the other. There's strong recommendations that they renew their board, yes. But whether they renew the board or not to get money from the city, that was not connected.
I think this is one of the typical wait and see what they're deciding. And before the city starts to mingle in that stew, let it resolve itself as much as possible with the players at hand. So I would just like to see this set over until they come up with a decision of what direction they're going.
One of the things that became obvious was a number of other cities do fund these other groups like Shedco and so on, and St. Helens doesn't. So in that way, we're not matching other communities in the state, which is not a good thing, but again, a separate issue.
Well, the city does support Shedco because the Main Street goes through the city, and we allow staffing to be spent on that, Steve. I want to clarify that way. And we've had a rare person that worked there. What was her name?
5 years.
Yes.
Several rare people.
5 years.
So I just want to make that clear, Steve, because that is not exactly true. And the city, has definitely done a lot with Shedco. So and we have a relationship with Shedco. So that Main Street funding for the movie theater did come through. Steve, you're muted. That Main Street funding did come through the city, just so you know.
I was on the Shedco board for the first 3 years, and there was, as I say, there were, I think, 3 different funding agencies. Mary was one of them. Was somewhat of a benefit to the city as far as total finance. They did help Shedco. Sherry Stewart said that indicated that the city should help finance Shedco to the tune of, I think, $25,000, which never even came close to what the city did. But that was following, we'll say, what other cities do. We definitely have to update how we're working together with our volunteer organizations And like we had with the Arts and Culture Commission, the full understanding of all the legal ramifications of all these things really has to be made clear. And I think that's gotten in a fog and confused a lot of things.
Mr. Mayor, if I could jump in, I was hoping that the discussion would be today more about supporting the Main Street program and how we, as a community, how we do that. And we know we have some history with Shedco and, the relationship with Shedco and the various years of rare AmeriCorps and rare placements that have been through that. And they come and they stay for 11 months or most of it, and they leave. And, they've done some good, but as a sustainable long-term solution, it's really probably not the best solution. And we're at a point where I think we all recognize that there's value in the Main Street program, and it's just how do we get there? How do we support it? And the recommendations from Sherry Stewart at the Main Street program were to, recognize the value, of what the city brings, or recognize the value of what Shedco has as potential assets, or as an asset, is their 501c3 status, and how we can work together to just have a better organization. And their model that they were proposing was to come up with a memorandum of understanding on, understanding each organization's roles and, financial support and the like. And, that was more of the conversation I was hoping to have, that we would, rather than talking this through, that we would come to a resolve that would get to a place where we could have some Shedco representation, understanding roles, some city representation, sending roles, a working group to kind of come together and see if we can get to yes with that. So.
Well, the finance timing, and I think we're postured to be in a good position in terms of finance by having our urban renewal model in place. I know it's underfunded at this point, but as time goes on, that those funds can aid, and we can work with Main Street program as our projects progress. And I see them fitting in very dovetailing in very nicely with urban renewal and what Main Street already has, all their work that they have done in their planning and their development of their models that they have. I see it as a very workable kind of solution, especially for urban renewal. Urban renewal needs to be a part of that.
Doug, we have a problem with urban renewal. The Main Street, we're going to have very strict boundaries, basically from the one end of First Street to Columbia Boulevard to Route 30. So we really have to extend it into, we say, the waterfront. I mean, there's some adjustment.
It's in the waterfront.
No, it ended the way originally, it ended up basically in front of the dock side.
Because the road doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's right. And we really want to include that and include the urban renewal. That's all I'm saying. Is I'm not saying we shouldn't work together. I said the original document had limits on it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it encases the Boise property.
No.
And
no, it didn't.
Urban renewal does.
Smart about it.
Urban renewal. I'm talking about urban renewal. Are you talking about Main Street?
Main Street didn't get into urban renewal.
I thought you said that we had a problem with urban renewal.
Oh, no. The working together is where the problem is. Together, and we just have to adjust that. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I think that's what I heard John Walsh saying.
Yeah, there is an overlap with the urban renewal aspect, is that we do have projects for facade improvements and things of that nature that we can work on building facades and aesthetic improvements and in the future. Maybe not so much administrative expense, but there are plans identified in the urban renewal agency that overlap both the old and the new, and they are new buildings, so obviously wouldn't have a facade issue, but potentially.
If I could talk.
Okay.
Having served on their board and having been part of a lot of Main Street occupations and projects, and the relationship between Main Street Shedco and the city has been dysfunctional at best, and pretty scary at worst. And so I think there has to be definitely some rules for engagement and some measurable outcomes, because it's like, we should be focused on the same goals and the same deliverables, and we shouldn't be working against each other. And I just have the feeling, just not specific to Shedco, but we've got a lot of groups of volunteers trying to do good things for our community and not necessarily working together. You've got lots of groups out there trying to do it their own way. And you'd think if the city's going to write checks, that we could agree with a way of doing business. It's really frustrating to be embarrassed by things in the paper that are like, this is not what we agreed on. And so I think that a memorandum of understanding is at least the first step.
Correct.
Yeah, because without clear rules and guidelines, Sherry Stewart made recommendations in 2015 that were not implemented. There's lots of fall downs all over the place, and unless everybody's playing by the same rules, we're going to keep walking in circles.
Well, the deal is that the city writes the check.
Well, yeah, I have to see something, but we've written a lot of checks in the last. The Main Street program started 2010.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, it started 10 years ago, and we're going to need to, we've written a lot of checks in 10 years.
The only thing I struggle with is me and Keith went 2 years ago. We went to their meetings, started in November, and maybe it was October, and we went all the way through till January. And it was, there wasn't a lot of interest. And we showed up one time, me, him, and Julie from the Chronicle at Sunshine Pizza. And we're not even board members, and that's where it was supposed to happen. And we ordered pizza and talked, but there wasn't a meeting. There wasn't even one member show up. So that's where I guess I'm also struggling with the revamp of. That's why I probably initiated that start, John, that way I did, is, who's going to take up the role, because there was highly recommended that there be a changeover from Sherry Stewart, and even Shedco agreed that needed to happen. And so that would be the first step, John, in my opinion, is to see the interest and how many board members are available on Shedco. Because typically I see 3 really strong members, and that's Amanda, Al, and Judy.
At one time there was 8 there, Rick, and it was a very different group than what you described. And that's where Ginny's correct. We've got to at least get the playbooks. Everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, you have seen the board members, Rick, but one thing that was prior to you being mayor is I've seen 3 of the Vista/Rare volunteers in tears over what they experienced as their role of helping that Main Street program. And I don't ever want that to represent our city. So we need to have clear understanding and clear expectations and rules of engagement of how we treat people. It's like we shouldn't be treating anybody, whether they're a volunteer or paid staff.
Like the chamber did with their ethics, yes, they really did with their ethics. And we have done and continue to work on, because we are work in progress, of course. I mean, everybody has room to grow. So
right, this is an opportunity to not just turn a page, but let's get out the right book and write the right rules, because we've not been on the right page for a long time.
So what does that look like? We need to.
Oh, I chime in a minute?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Keith.
So, I myself and Skip Baker started this long time ago, and the big thing is it wanted to be a group that wasn't involved with the city. So we spent about, 9 months getting them started, and then we backed off. And first few years, they did pretty good, went a lot of directions, although they're, never was really super good, but it's just gone south from there. And right now, Shedco's got a reputation that I don't know if we can even get any board members on it. And John's right about the Main Street. Main Street's a little different than what they set out to do. My recommendation would be that we just, I mean, I don't know whether if Shedco wants to continue, they can continue, but maybe we start a new group called the Main Street Group. And for now, the council could be the committee, and then we go out and try and get new persons on this committee, and it ends up with a city councilor on the committee that can stay with the committee and report back to the council and keep things under tap.
You know, Keith, when Shedco got started under Skip Baker, one of the comments that was made was, oh, there have been other groups here that have tried to do something, and they all asked about 5 years. And no one really wants to face, why do these things fall apart? And Shedco has basically followed the same track. And I think part of it is we don't know what the rule book is.
That's part of it, but like I say, when there's not some city representation on there, it seems to always go awry because they don't want to follow the rules.
Well, I spoke up when Sherry gave her presentation, and I said, you know, that a problem with our area is we have 3 different identities here. We have actually 4, if you really want to look at CCET, which is kind of county-based, but CCET, Keep It Local, Chamber, and Shedco, all trying to do kind of the same thing. CCET's a little bit different, of course, but I don't know, you know, what's the difference between Shedco, Keep It Local, and the Chamber. You know, I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, I agree with Keith in some respects. I kind of think that we need to focus on the Main Street program. Perhaps Shedco might want to divorce the Main Street program. I'm not certain, but I think that we need to rejuvenate the Main Street program because as we develop, and a lot of these organizations and groups are counting on change happening and or construction or restructure happening, and that's why I'd like to, you know, make certain it is definitely linked with urban renewal, and there's more of a sense of purpose as things are developing. As we develop our riverfront area, there's a big purpose for Main Street, what it's going to look like and how it's going to function. Until those things come along, until the construction starts, it's kind of like, you know, they've got all the plans and a lot of things in place, but really not a whole lot to do, and it falls apart. So as cities are developing, there's specific needs for these groups to be there, but we aren't in a place where we're developing quite yet.
You know, Doug, I think you hit the nail right on the head. Main Street had nothing to do with the waterfront because the waterfront didn't exist. And the city's big interest became the waterfront, but no connection was ever made with the rest of Main Street. And I think the sense of purpose for the whole area changed and it was not reconnected. I think you really put the picture together unless there's a real purpose. And without connecting the waterfront to Main Street, there is no purpose for Main Street.
Yeah, it means that we've got to tear down and redo.
Yeah, correct.
Anyway, just a thought.
One of the other issues with this whole project is it started in 2010, right when the recession started. So
Yeah, exactly.
There was no money to help any group do anything, and that's always been an issue. You have to have some hired person or somebody to continue work and look into at things and keeping track of the minutes and all that kind of stuff to make sure things continue to move on.
Well, I'm not hearing a lot of recommendations, though. I mean, I heard a lot of discussion, but I'm not hearing a lot of recommendations, and I'm kind of puzzled on next steps forward, to be honest with you.
My recommendation was to start a Main Street group.
Well, I did hear yours. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agreed with that.
Yeah.
We can always save it for tonight for a recommendation.
To keep it alive. I mean, we got to keep it alive. There's a lot of work that's been done. And so if Shitco starts, if they feel that they're going to go away, then we need to embrace the work that's been done on Main Street.
Yeah, Shitco has value in their status as a 501c3 and able to engage with grants with the Main Street program, which I understand is desirable. And you know, it was going to be my recommendation that we kind of push this MOU relationship as far as we can to see if we can get to a decision point.
I mean, Sherry made recommendations, and there was a burden. The burden on us is to support them, but there was a burden on them for organization. So I look at the pressure is definitely on that group if they want to continue going forward with Main Street.
Well, I know they've fought really hard to keep that going. So I mean, I don't want to, I think I'm in agreement with John. If I think I hear him right, is as far as a discussion of what are the next steps.
Well, if we can't get to an agreement, then we go a different direction, I suppose. I guess we need to exhaust that effort as far as getting as much out of the Shedco history as we can. So,
good idea, John.
And as far as how we get to that, I would recommend that we have a working group so we're not having this conversation in this format, and a minority of the counselors, maybe myself and perhaps Rachel, and on the Shedco side, whoever wants to be a part of that. So.
Sure, let's do it. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, John. Set it up.
Any volunteers?
I can help. I just can't, my schedule.
Yeah.
I'll volunteer.
Via Zoom, I could help via Zoom. That's pretty easy for me.
Okay. Yeah, and that might be the best format.
I can step up on that.
So it'll only be 2. So.
Yeah.
Don't want to have a quorum. So.
Mayor and president. So we both agreed.
All right.
All right. Okay, so next item on the agenda is discussion of COVID relief funds. Rachel.
Hello, good afternoon again, and thank you. I will be brief. The coronavirus relief funds that have been allocated to the city, we have done a lot of good with them. Thank you for your work in that, and would like to spend the rest of them to see that they are doing good work in our community before they must go back to the Department of Administrative Services. Internally, we have identified several ongoing needs. As you can see in the packet, I don't need to read them. A lot of it's around city-owned property expenses, as well as support for telework and employees. And in partnership conversations, we have also identified distance learning and community supports. The biggest need we have heard has been connectivity for families, as well as kind of safe space and programming for those families. So would like to go ahead and recommend purchase of additional hotspots and recreation program staffing. Your approval of this request would give us the authority to expend those funds. And as those programs come online, we will be back to report. Are there any questions?
What's the funds look like, Rach?
We have to date, well, we were allocated close to 400,000. In the August approval, we spent 224,000. Leaving 170,000 to spend. The internal supports, oh gosh, I'm gonna need to do some math. Let me pull out the distance learning and community support in this round is going to be 25,000. Here you go. Thank you, Matt. So here are the expenses planned to account for the rest of our allocated funds.
And do the allocated funds, do they continue, that this is allocated for this year, is that correct?
Yes, this is for city use in direct response to the pandemic. They must be spent by December 30th, and we are on notice that the state will claw them back if we do not spend them.
Okay, good. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it. That's all I needed to know.
How many additional hotspots are you recommending that you guys are going to get? So I think those are good things.
That's a good question. I'll throw it to Matt. I think it will depend on the contracting relationship and how many.
Or roughly.
Yeah, Margaret is researching that right now to see what options are available for
She's constantly checked out over there of hotspots.
She is, but there are restrictions with the company that she got those through. There are certain restrictions that we can't limit them just to St. Helens School District kids. They have to be for all library patrons, and she can only increase them 10 per year. So she has 10 right now. She could get another 10 more. But so there are limits and restrictions to the company that she got this first batch through a grant. So she is looking at additional resources and will come back to John and I with what she finds out.
Okay. Can we just throw it up for tonight? I'm sure we're going to approve it, but we decided we would approve things in the section. So.
Yes, it'll be a part of tonight's recommendations.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Review request for Oregon Made Creative Foundation. John.
Okay, this is a pretty straightforward maintenance agreement for the signs that we talked about at the last meeting for the Oregon Film Trail, that they were requesting that the city has an ongoing commitment to maintaining those signs for 10 years. It's a metal sign that's going to be attached to a basalt pillar, so I'm not thinking that's going to be a huge obligation and commitment to the city. So, but it is part of the program, so should be that straightforward.
Okay.
No problems.
All right, strategic action plan updates.
Just real quick, the city has completed 8 out of 53 strategic plans, items that were put on by the city council. So there are a number of them that we are continually to work on, but as of today, we have completed 8 out of the 53. And if you would like a list of those are on the website. You can go to the strategic plan update and look at each project and the action plans and any information.
All right, thank you, Matt. Okay, city administrators report. John Walsh.
All right, I'll try to make it brief in the interest of having an executive session here. So I guess first of all, I'll talk about the waterfront redevelopment. Let me do something real quick here. On the Veneer site, there's the 2 parts to the RFQs that we're preparing. The Riverwalk RFQ for the construction permitting documents. It also includes the Columbia View Park improvements with the stage design that folds into that. That is pretty well complete. And this second piece of that, which does the roadway, the design and engineering and construction documents for the utilities and the roadways, is hopefully close behind it. We're going to have a look at that at the next meeting. The part 1 and the part 2 should follow, but we're intending that those will go out at the same time to attract the highly qualified consultant.
John, I don't mean to interrupt, but do you have plans for the road development?
It will be.
Or is this still conceptual stage?
Yeah, this is going from conceptual to design. So we're selecting a qualified consultant to do that work.
To do the design work?
Design work for the roadway, the exact road alignment, the water, the sewer, the pump stations, all the little bits that go along with it.
Is there any way we could take a look at the plans that are going to the designer, or the concept plans that are going to the designer?
So all of the documents going to the RFQ are subject to change, and it's pretty clear throughout. We're using a lot of the work that we've done today with the build grant and other documents that are to council is generally accepted in concept. You know, not so much the engineering of the pump station and things like that, but road alignment, things of that nature.
Yeah, I'm more interested in looking at the road design.
And you will. You'll have a chance to look at these and bless these to go before they go out.
Thank you.
That is the purpose of them coming to council for authorization. So,
thank you.
At our last meeting, we got a report from Paul Foster Alonji on the preliminary phase 1 site investigation for the Central Water Fund. We talked about that. We talked about the timeline. They talked about a preliminary conceptual site development plan. That plan is now complete. I just received it yesterday. So I would like to have them at an upcoming meeting, talk to the council if they desire, go through that. I can send it out prior. And that'll pretty much wrap up the work with the state funds that we've obtained to go forward, you know, to complete that task. There's some remaining public outreach that we'll still be tasked with. And, you know, we're still pretty early on here. So. The industrial business park is still moving along. The parcelization plan is complete. The update of the infrastructure and finance plans back for revision. We have comments trading back and forth, and we should have a final soon to wrap up that state-funded effort. The preliminary grading plan, similarly, there's been some changing of drafts back and forth, and come up with a grading plan for a portion of the mill site that will also have a drainage plan, and then address all the wetland and the environmental issues that go along with that. You may have noticed a large pile of dirt on the mill site as you are industrial park as you enter to the left there, and that dirt was donated by the developer of the grocery outlet site there, and we're thankful for that. It appears to be pretty high quality and be useful in a lot of city upcoming projects. So. The Sykes Road is reservoir feasibility. We've had a pre-meeting with that. The investigative work is underway. Similarly, the urban renewal plan amendment process is moving along on schedule. A question I had with the Public Works Director interview schedule. We have preliminary interviews on Friday, October 16th, and the in-persons on Monday, October 26th. One of our candidates was requesting to be waived from the screening interview because they'd been previously screened and wanted to go straight to the just to the in-person interviews. There's actually 2 candidates that have been previously screened that are in this interview round, and I wanted to get the council's feedback on whether you want to have everybody start over fresh and go through the same process consistently, or if we want to just pre-qualify the other people that have already been pre-screened and come to the interview.
I think if they're in the top tier, that if they've already gone through that preliminary kind of place, that's fine with me. That's what I was getting at. Why are we doing this over and over and over again? Well, they'll give us the same answers that they gave before. And if they're asking for it, I would grant them. I would be very much in favor of granting them their request.
Okay. Is that some
2 individuals you said?
Yeah, 2 out of the, I think 7, and that made this scoring round have already been through the screening interviews.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Gonna save an hour and a half of our time.
Thank you.
That's why we're asking if you want to do that. Okay.
Can we get a copy of the score sheet from when they went through last time?
Kathy has those.
Yes, I can make those available.
Yeah, because it's like we might want to score them with this new group, because I don't know who they are. I scored them based on that group.
I agree.
we can provide that information. And so just a quick update on Halloween Town. There's been a little bit of criticism, but it's gone reasonably well. According to our social media traffic, there seems to be more interest than ever than in the event, and St. Helens as this destination, and our strategy for limiting on the busier weekends with, if you want to visit on the weekend, you need a ticket. And if you don't have a ticket, please don't come. And that it seems to be working. There's many hundreds of thousands of people that are piling onto our website trying to gain access to this event, and we're managing it pretty reasonable well. So we're doing our best to comply with the governor's orders and the OHA guidance, and it seems like nearly all the visitors enjoy the event, and they're really pretty respectful when they're here of the regulations, wearing their masks and keeping distances where they can.
John, a clarification, and I don't know if Tina's available, but on the haunted house, is it open separate from the, because there's a lot of locals that were wanting to do that, but were not wanting to pay $45.
Yeah, all of the stores are open. So that you're not, the way that the fencing, and that was an adjustment from the beginning, kind of a learning moment from the first soft opening there, is that people wanted to be able to access along, the 2 Cs and the haunted house and all of those things. So it's included in the ticket, but it's not part of the event area. So you can get through there. You can still go into the haunted house. And if you haven't been in there, it's really amusement park quality. It's really good. I was very impressed on tour the other day.
So maybe if you can get clarification, you could have E2C put some clarification maybe via Facebook, just, that if not, they're only going to let so many people in there because of governor standards, but it's not $45 to go through the haunted house, and it is.
It is not $45 to go through the haunted house. No.
Yes. Okay. So, but that's what a lot of people think. So, yes.
So yeah, that was an initial adjustment. We're kind of, it's real-time kind of adjustments to try to make it work the best for everybody.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, it's very quiet down there. I've passed by the last couple of weekends, and of course, 250 people compared to 4,000 people in weekends prior. We're doing a good job, in my opinion. Yeah.
Feels good.
Yep.
So I wanted to leverage, Paul Vogel didn't talk on his report about the new round of small business grants that they have access through Business Oregon, and there's a pool of money out there to support small business. It's $2,500 to $50,000, and it's available until the funding's gone. And this pool of money is different from previous, so if you've been denied, there's less strings. Previous money, if you had received other EIDL or PP loans or other things, you weren't eligible. In this pool, you might be. So, and get the word out and benefit our county as much as we can. So we had the Oregon Brownfields Conference earlier this week. The city was just really well represented. It was we were had a big piece in the keynote video. Our Central Waterfront, all of our projects were highlighted throughout. I had a presentation, Jenny had a presentation, and even another person that was a former St. Helens resident gave a presentation about the good things going on in St. Helens. So it was great. And, the League of Oregon Cities Conference is next week, October 14th and 15th. It's virtual. If you want to participate, let us know. Kathy or I know. And, other than that, we're starting to think about Christmas and the Christmas ships and what that event is going to look like in a COVID-friendly atmosphere. So,
all right.
Yep. That's
quite a bit.
Report.
Yep. That's quite a bit. Yeah. Okay. Any other business before I adjourn? And don't.
Yes, I've got one thing there, Rick. I was contacted by somebody who wanted to buy a piece of property next to was it Greystone? And they were told there's no property for sale. And in one of our executive meetings, we were discussing somebody was dickering for that. And so I know of 2 people who would like to buy that property, and I have not seen a public announcement of that piece of property for sale, along with the estimate of its value or a description. So back to doing things legally. But I've got somebody else who was telling me they wanted to buy that funny piece of property.
Councilor Topaz, again, I wish, yeah, we're going to be going into executive session.
And this was not executive session. This was another party outside of where we started. That's why I'm bringing it up. So when we get to executive session, you realize there were two parties. Two parties.
Councilor Topaz, that's real property transaction, and I would prefer to keep that in.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about why this person was told there was no property for sale. That was my question. Why was this party told there was no property for sale? That's my question.
It's not for sale.
It was not for sale.
I don't know. I'm just baffled by that comment. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to.
What is no, not for sale. No sale of that property. This other person was told.
Councilor Topaz, I have no idea what you're talking about, okay? You don't have to come off on me. I'm trying to adjourn out of this meeting. We can talk in executive session. We'll be talking about real property.
I wanted this in public session that there's two
Councilor
parties.
Topaz, you are out of order. You are breaking executive session rules.
No, I'm
right
not.
Now.
This piece of property
You are
was
out of order. With that, we are going to adjourn. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll be going into executive session under ORS 1926602E, real property transaction and H, consulting with counsel. We will take a 5-minute break, and we will be going into executive session.